got these presenters here because before you all go out on your own into the big world and make your own money and pay your own bills, we really thought there were some things you should think about. Because sometimes some of those choices can really be, can change the course of your life. And so the people that we have today, we have Rose Gruber and Robert McGuigan, and they've been talking to high school students for about the last 6 years about problem gambling. And they brought me some information on other presentations they've done at other high schools, and some of the kids who wrote letters wrote things like, I liked ideas that you had, I didn't know gambling could affect society or the gambler so much. You helped a lot of people here. Things that you said are everywhere. So Rose and Robert really do know what they're talking about, and I want you guys to listen really carefully. The other thing I want to say quickly is Robert McGuigan is a 1969 East High graduate. So it's really special for him to be here today. So I want you guys to be a really good audience, and I'm going to give Robert one of our East High t-shirts from last year. Because on the back of this one, it's got all the alumni and everybody listed, and of course Robert would be one of that 30,167 and counting alumni. Robert, here you go.
Well, I don't know what to say. I'll tell you what. I've talked to a lot of groups and a lot of kids, but I've never been as nervous as I have today talking to her at my own school, my alma mater, in front of a bunch of them. Well, see, I told you I'm nervous. I can't even say it anymore. But anyway, you're going to be watching a video here shortly. It has to do with my family. And then after the video, Rose will get up. She's the executive director for the Wisconsin Council on Problem Gambling. And I wish I had met her years ago. But anyway, I'm not against gambling, and neither is Rose. We're not here to preach, but we're here to prepare about gambling. When I talk to you, it is my responsibility and duty to prepare you for the realities of gambling, that the effect, so now I even lost what I was going to say. I got to grab my notes. I'm about as nervous as a blue jay in fire. Okay, so when it comes to gambling, I have to do what I can do to prepare you for the reality that gambling just isn't a problem or a bad habit for loser kids. It's an addiction that doesn't discriminate and often eliminates those who bet against it. Just to kind of give you the odds on gambling, let's say each one of you in this room, for the rest of your life, spent $50 a week on the lottery. How long do you think it would take you to win the lottery? The answer? 5,000 years. That's the reality of gambling. And with that, we're going to turn on the video and do what's necessary, and then Rose will come up afterwards.
The story contains images that may be disturbing to some viewers.
It was one of the darkest stories that I've seen in a long time. I mean, we do stories about college kids gambling on sports. What I find fascinating about the story is that it isn't just a case of kids gambling on sports as a pastime during college football season. It's what can go really wrong when it gets out of hand.
Family and friends say the 28-year-old was heavily into gambling. Investigators say they positively identified all three of the victims.
He wanted to make sure there was no witnesses, and he killed everyone in that apartment.
The week before the murder, there appeared to be growing tension between the two men over what's described as a $17,000 payoff. Detectives believe the UW student squandered tens of thousands of dollars given to him for college gambling.
Did you have questions for him?
Why, over a bet, did you kill 3 kids?
Meiju Mark Wu was a quiet 19-year-old who had come from Taiwan in the fall of 2002 to attend the University of Wisconsin. By the spring of 2003, Wu had gotten caught up in the nationwide surge of gambling on college campuses.
Wu started gambling at a local casino sometime in the spring semester, more and more frequently as time went on.
In April 2003, Wu met Jason McGuigan, a gun-toting 28-year-old, at the Ho Chunk Casino outside of Madison. McGuigan told Wu he could make him a winner.
They seem very different. What did they have in common?
Gambling. That was all. That was the only thing they had in common. My son was teaching them about sports gambling.
They got involved in offshore betting, where they would set up an account with a place called Olympic Sports in the Bahamas, and we would telephone sports bets into that company.
There are calls that Wu makes to Olympic Sports where it's clear he has no idea what he's doing. He calls up and he tries to ask about the Atlantic Braves. He doesn't even know the name of the team. And you could hear Jason in the background telling him what to do.
I'd like to know who the pitcher for the baseball game Atlantic at New York. No, I agree. Yeah. You be mad, but got anything wrong?
He's not a sports fan. It's not the thrill of competition of the sport. It's that thrill you get from gambling.
For Meiju Wu, that thrill had a price tag. By the end of his freshman year, Wu, often guided by Jason McGuigan, had burned through over $72,000 from a family bank account. His alarmed parents told their son they were flying in from Taiwan to take him back home. Desperate to recover some of his losses, Wu again turned to Jason McGuigan and asked him to place one more large bet for him on a game between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cleveland Indians on June 21st, 2003.
Throughout the course of that day, Meg made phone calls to Olympic Sports and found out that the teams he had bet on had actually won.
I'd like to take the Major League Baseball results with the Cleveland.
7 Pittsburgh, 6 Cleveland.
Which he was going to put in his bank accounts so that when his parents got here in a few days, he could show his parents that he had money.
He announces this to Jason in front of a group of people, saying, "You just won me 17 grand." At that point, Jason has his Glock in his waist. He pulls it out, points it at Wu, and says, "Shut the f*** up," and puts it back in.
Jason had never placed that bet, and Meg did not win $17,000. Jason knew that Meg was going to be going back to Taiwan as well, and he knew if he just could blow him off for a few days, Meg would be gone.
On June 26th, 4 days after learning his bet was never placed, Wu walked into a house shared by Jason McGuigan and two of his friends, Dan Swanson and Dustin Wilson.
He shoots Dan Swanson and Dustin Wilson as they're sleeping. He shoots each one multiple times, killing them. And he shoots Jason in Jason's own bedroom twice and kills him.
For Robert McGuigan, the anguish over his son's murder is complicated by the knowledge of his son's complicity.
They died because of my son's activities. They lost their lives over me.
Meiju Wu was arrested for the three murders on July 6, 2003, and held on a $30 million bail. The night before the trial was to begin, Wu braided his bedsheets, tied them around the sprinkler head on the ceiling of his cell, and hanged himself.
There's 4 people here that lost their lives, and it all stems from the problems that Meng-Ju Wu has with sports gambling.
I know that you didn't get to talk to the parents of the Taiwanese kid in the piece. I would want to know, how do you let an account drain of $75,000 before you start to find out what's going on?
And honestly, we would have loved to have been able to talk to Meng-Ju's family there back in Taiwan, and we reached out to them through their attorney. We're told no way. Our understanding is that the family is kind of well off, that this was a joint account that they had with their son for him to be in school, whereas your joint account that you may have had and my joint account that we may have had with our parents may have had a couple $100 in it for us to spend. But for him, my understanding is that they knew that something was wrong, but he kept reassuring them, the money's going to get put back, the money's going to get put back. But they knew something was wrong, which is why they were on their way here to take him home. Through the course of this story, we learned that there are so many groups out there. We talked to so many other kids who had this, same gambling addiction.
I absolutely understand why Mark Wu did what he did. I would lay in my bedroom and think of horrific things that I would do or could do to obtain money.
According to the International Center for Problem Gambling, 87% of college-aged problem gamblers, that's over 1 million people, commit crimes to support their habit. Students in treatment for gambling addiction agreed to speak with E60 on the condition of anonymity.
I would destroy anything that came between me and gambling.
I got involved with some people that were selling drugs, and also about people face to face.
I would lose amounts of money and then go chase the money to the point where I would wipe out an account and then have to go steal more to get an action, and then I would lose that, and then I would think about getting a gun and blowing my brains out. At that point, I knew I needed serious help.
One of the reasons that college campuses are such a hotbed of gambling is you've got almost a perfect storm of factors that have come together.
Keith White of the National Council on Problem Gambling says wagering by college-aged kids, ages 18 to 24, has increased a full 30% in the past 20 years.
The average college student has access to 4 credit cards. You've got the fact that college students tend to be high-risk takers, they tend to be intensely competitive, and they think they're bulletproof. These folks tend to have very high rates of gambling participation, especially in non-sports gambling.
I didn't gamble until I got to college, and I saw everybody do it. But the time you know that gambling is a means to obtain a high that is socially acceptable. And once you get into the rush, you just want more and more and more. For me, I was willing to do anything to get that high.
I even got to a point where I bet on anything. I didn't care what it was. It didn't stop being about the money or
Colleges and universities have been slow to react to problem gambling. A survey in the Harm Reduction Journal revealed that of all colleges with a student alcohol policy, only 22% had a student gambling policy.
Despite the deaths of some students and students getting involved in criminal activity, we're still not in higher ed reading, still not really tuned in to the damage that can be done. Colleges and universities have to stop holding their breath and hoping the water will recede, because you know what? It's not going to go away. We have to do something.
What do you think, man, Lisa? When you start your life as the family with college football fans all the time, you look at the newspaper, the lines are printed in every paper in the country. What do you think when you see those things now?
That we're talking about something else. We have poker on every night of the week almost, it seems like, and, quite frankly, we kind of promote on our air all the time, gambling, betting on sports. I mean, every Sunday you can see the analysts giving the lines on the games, and, what kind of society you go doing with it, and you tell kids, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, and then yet we turn around and give them all the access in the world, and kind of polarize and promote the very things that we tell them to do.
Good morning, everybody. I am going going to just very briefly for a few minutes tell you what the Wisconsin Council on Problem Gambling is. Going to give you a real brief overview of problem and pathological gambling. And I'm going to turn it over to Robert, who's going to share his story. If you didn't get a goodie when you came in, please make sure you get one on your way out. And it looks like there's plenty, so if you want something else, please help yourself. The more you take with you, the less I have to take with me. So, I'm going to start by sharing one of my favorite statistics. Robert shared his about the lottery. The one I always liked is you have a better chance of falling out of your bed tonight and dying than you do of winning the lottery. So when I heard that, that kind of put it in perspective for me as well. Although, someone's going to win, but, the chances are pretty slim. The Wisconsin Council on Problem Gambling, excuse me, take a deep breath there, is a private nonprofit agency. We are a statewide agency. We're located in Green Bay, but we do travel all over the state, providing education and awareness on the issue of legalized gambling. We also maintain neutrality on the issue of legalized gambling, so we're not out there trying to shut down the casinos, close down the lottery, any of those types of things. Our focus is strictly on helping people who are affected in some way by gambling addiction. We also try to provide the education and awareness so that hopefully we can do some prevention instead of ISIS trying to help people do intervention. And what we do in going to the schools is just trying to let you know that it's a choice and to know that there are risks involved in making the choice to gamble. There's nothing wrong with it. Most people can always gamble for fun, and it will never ever be more than that. So one of the main things we do at the council is we do have a 24-hour helpline where if you have a problem with gambling or you know of someone with a problem, they can call that number. We answer it 24 hours a day, every day of the year. When someone calls the helpline, we're able to help them through any immediate crisis they might be in, because very often when somebody calls the helpline, they may be suicidal, they may have lost everything, they may have gotten in legal trouble, all kinds of things when they call us. So we try to help make sure that they're not, helping through the crisis. We're able to assess if there's any suicide issues going on. Compulsive gamblers have a 20% higher suicide rate than other addictions, so we're always very aware of that. And in that situation, we would hook people up with emergency resources in their communities. And then our goal really is to connect you with Gamblers Anonymous meetings, which are similar to AA meetings. I think most people are familiar with AA or NA. GA is very similar. I always want to break into song when I hear that little ding dong, so I'll try not to, because that won't be pretty for you. So we also have gambling meetings, which are for family members, to give them a resource as well. We do referrals there. We have a listing of all the counselors in the state that have been trained to deal specifically with compulsive gambling issues. We also have packs of information that we send out. So again, very simply what we do at the council is to try to provide education, awareness, let people know that help is available, let them know how to get that help, and then also make sure that they know the 800 number, which is 1-800-GAMBLE-5. If you took any of our materials, that number is right on there. We encourage you to share that. If you know someone that has a gambling problem, we can certainly help point them in the right direction. A few other things we do is we do have a curriculum that we are working on getting into the schools. We do an annual conference. We're in 140 phone books throughout the state of Wisconsin. Just things like that, again, spreading public awareness. How many of you have done any kind of gambling? It's okay, you're not going to get an F for saying yes, so how many of you play poker on Friday nights or Saturday nights? Okay. And how many of you play on a regular basis? On a regular basis. Okay. How many of you think gambling can be a problem for people your age? Okay. All right. First smart group I've run into. Awesome. Okay. 5 to 7% of the adult population is estimated to have some kind of a gambling problem. So here in Wisconsin, that's approximately 332,000 people. 5 to 7%. We're seeing studies now that are showing that 6 to 20% of young people your age are being affected by gambling problems. So that's something we really want to pay attention to. You guys are right at a point in your life where you're very high risk to become addicted to gambling. I want to just talk about a little bit about different types of gamblers. A social gambler is just that. You take your 20 bucks, 50 bucks, play poker on Friday night, buy lottery tickets, whatever it is, and that's all it is. It's money you can afford to lose. You're probably doing it with friends. You know you're probably going to lose. It means nothing else. You do it once a week or once a month, and that's it. Most people will always be social gamblers. Then we have a problem gambler. A problem gambler is somebody who they're gambling more often. They're spending more money gambling than they used to. It's not quite as easy to walk away. They may be borrowing money, might be not doing other activities that they used to do because gambling is becoming more important. But at some level, a problem gambler can still walk away. Then we get into a pathological or compulsive gambler, and that is someone who the gambling is completely out of control. They cannot stop no matter what. When they run out of legal means, they very often turn to illegal means to get money to gamble. They usually borrow everything they can from anybody they can get it from. Very often they will sell their belongings. When they win, they go back to win more. When they lose, they chase and they go back to try to chase back what they win. With a compulsive gambler, the next big win is always right around the corner. I talked to somebody on the helpline once that had won $20,000, and within 6 weeks of winning the $20,000, they were down $30,000. The next big win is always right around the corner. If I take my last 50 bucks, I know I'm going to make back everything I lost and everything will be fine. That doesn't happen because they continue, that's part of the addiction, they continue to chase their wins and their losses. It's also considered a pretty much invisible disease. You don't see it. You're not ever going to see anybody who's slurring their speech or staggering down the street because they gamble too much. So it's very much a hidden disease. Compulsive gamblers, however, do binge gamble. They'll gamble 2-3 days at a time, just like alcoholics drink. It's very similar in that way. The gambling anesthetizes somebody, takes away the pain. It's an escape, again, just like alcohol or drugs. A few things you want to pay attention to is if you're gambling more often than you used to, spending more money, are your grades being affected? Is somebody more depressed or full of anxiety than they used to? In the beginning of a gambling addiction, you'll see somebody who has usually a lot of money because at the beginning they are winning. And so very often they will share the wealth, and buy their friends things and makes them feel important. But as the gambling addiction progresses and they need more and more money to get that same high, because gambling, like any other addiction, it's about the high, it's not about the money. They will need more and more. So they will not be sharing their wins because their wins as the addiction progresses become further and further apart. With that, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Robert. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask, and we'll certainly give you some time for questions at the end as well.
Well, I guess you all just got a dose of reality with that video, didn't you? I'm sure you don't ever want to be in my shoes, because that was no picnic. And by the way, that was my only child. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how my son and my family got involved with gambling. The gambling in my family, the destruction, wasn't just with my son. It went back 2 generations of it destroying my family. And I look around this room and I look at you all, and you're going to be heading out of here in a few days. You're going to be out on the road doing your thing. And I want you to think about, after I get done talking, what you can do to help with problem gambling, what you can do before you even leave this school, and what you can do when you go on to school or go on to a job, what you can do at your workplace. Because the more we educate and talk to people, the better chance we got of saving somebody like my son or those other two kids. How many of you in this room have brothers and sisters and cousins? Okay? Again, while I talk, I want you to think about them. And also think about your loved ones. Because when you lose them, and you lose them all, you don't have anybody left to hold on to and to hug. I don't have anybody anymore to hold on to hug, and to talk about the things my son and I did. I want you to think about that. I always like telling this little story. Every year I used to go to the Badger football game, and since my son was murdered, I haven't gone back. It's just something I haven't been able to do yet. So I sell my tickets every year to this family. And ironically enough, the mother is a teacher in one of the school districts in the area here. Well, when I met this family to sell them my tickets, I wanted to make sure they were good quality, that they're going to protect my tickets because they've been in the family for 70-some years, and they're on the 45-yard line. I met them at a restaurant called Toby's on the east side here, and we're sitting down talking. And this will give you an indication how early kids start to gamble. Their daughter, who was 8 years old, was sitting at the table, and of course they knew the story of what happened to my son. And we're talking about gambling, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, the 8-year-old says, "Oh, I play Texas Hold'em all the time. I just go to candycane.com, but I'm not gambling. I'm only playing with chips." Think about it. 8 years old. Think about when you were younger, when you got on the computer, when you got on the internet. Think about it when you have kids of your own. Here's this teacher who didn't know her own daughter and son was 8 years old, was going on gambling. That's how young a teacher is. That's how easy accessible it is. Okay, getting back to my family, let's go back to that. I grew up in a small town called Blanchardville, Wisconsin. We didn't have much to do. We'd either go to the pits, raise a little hell, maybe drink a little beer, or we'd take our truck and we'd run it through the cornfields and raise heck with the farmer. Then, of course, the local cop would come over us and give us a stern talking to. But with nothing to do, I grew up fishing and hunting and camping with my dad and enjoyed it and everything else. And I had two brothers. And my other brother, I'm the youngest, loved to fish and camp as well. But the oldest one, who was 6 years older than me, when he was 8 years old, he would go down to the local cafe and play pinochle and poker. And he'd learn it from the guys who had retired, the retired farmers, retired workers, every day during the week, during the summer. So he was learning. He didn't like to fish or hunt. In fact, Dad bought him a 410 shotgun to go hunting. What did he end up doing? He ended up selling it because he lost the money playing cards at 8 years of age in the little cafe. When my brother got older, when he got in high school, it was not uncommon for us to have 4 to 6 tables or more of students on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night playing poker, playing cards. He was doing this when he was 13 in the house. Think about it, I'm 6 years younger. I started learning at 7. There would be times when they would need somebody to fill in. Well, guess who that somebody was? Yours truly. I started gambling, 8 years of age. And interesting enough to know, and here's my alma mater, guess what I used to do out in the corner of the building out here in East on 5th Street? I used to pitch pennies and coins and throw the dice. I had a place called the Pure Gold Lunch. We'd sit there, and then the Tower Lunch, we'd sit in there and play cards all day long. So that's how I got into gambling. But my brother continued on gambling. And here's one of the interesting things with gambling. When you start gambling, you're going to start with one step. First, my brother started with playing cards and poker. But he took it to another step later. When he graduated from high school, he started to work for a company called Alma Mater. While he was there at Alma Mater, he would run bus loads of workers from Oscar to the Arlington horse race track in Illinois. He would fill the buses. He didn't have to pay for his seat, A, because he arranged it, and B, he would make money on these trips. Not by overcharging, but he made money. He got so good at picking the horses, people would pay him to pick the horses out. And he got a nickname. His nickname was Scoop. Well, Scoop went on, and eventually he lost his job at Oscar Mayer. I tend to believe the reason for that was because of the buses. Well, now he's no longer able to run the buses, and he's going to this little restaurant on the south side of Madison that no longer exists. And it's here where he met a cast of characters. And that's what I call it. And they got to know him, trust him, and they said, Scoop, got an idea. I got a question for you. Would you mind going around to the bars, restaurants, and set up accounts and distribute parlay cards? This is something that you're going to see all of you. We're almost available in every restaurant, every bar in the city of Madison and beyond. How many of you know what a parlay card is? Okay, a few of you do. Well, it has every sports game that's being played through the week. Also, besides the parlay cards, you're going to be able to get a book that has every game that's being played at school, or in town, or across the country, professionally and college. So now my brother has set up all these accounts, and believe me, it was quite a few. I had an opportunity one time when he broke his ankle. He couldn't get to the accounts without help because he couldn't drive the car. He asked me would I mind taking those cards around or taking him around to pick up the money that was wagered on those cards. We went to 4 accounts, just 4. He picked up and was walking around those 4 accounts with $40,000 in his pocket. I thought he was nuts. $40,000 walking around? He said, yeah. I said, school, somebody could kill you or rob you. Now, they don't know I got it. Make a bet. So anyway, he continued on. And then he went to the next level. He took it to the highest level. Well, if he's no longer distributing, well, I shouldn't say that, he was still distributing the cards. He was trusted so well, they asked him if he would be a bookie. How many of you know what a bookie is? Okay, a bookie is somebody that you place the bet with. You win, he pays you. You lose, you pay him. He was one of the biggest bookies in the city of Madison. In fact, one of the things about gamblers, when they start gambling and it gets in their blood like it was with my brother and myself, is they start going away, being with their friends. They push them aside. They start pushing aside the family. Gambling becomes more important to them than anything else. My own brother got so big that that he decided he didn't want anything else to do with his family. He didn't care. He had his friends. They were his family buddies. He didn't care about family. That's the most important thing he got, his family. When he loses it, I'll tell you what, he bleeds inside. So, what did he do? He did the most unconscionable things that a son could do. He even cut off ties with his own mother. The one person who brought him into this world, who gave him nothing but love, he didn't care anymore. He didn't care about that love. He got that cold. My mother would call me, and she would call my friends in tears, wondering why. Why doesn't he call me? He only lives across town, on the east side. She lived out by Hillsdale. Think about it. Wouldn't even call her. He would see her once a year. He would come over in his baby limo, pick her up for Mother's Day, spend 4 hours with her, playing the big shot. Then the rest of the time she was left in tears. She went to her old grave, not knowing why. He had nothing more to do with it. Before this all happened, I'm teaching my son how to gamble. I'm teaching him dice games, and he's a young man. He's 8 years old. 9 years old. Taking him camping, fishing. What do you think we did when we were out fishing? We pitched dice. We played dice games. I did not know at the time gambling could be an addiction. No concept at all. And like I said, I wish I had met this woman down in front of me right now, because maybe, just maybe, I could have saved my son. So anyway, as my son got older, I got custody of him. Well, guess what? The card games and pet supply, the dice games, Monopoly. We played Monopoly 2-3 times a week. We played dice 7 times a week. Was I addicted? Yeah. Didn't realize it myself. My son growing up, at that age before my brother decided to cut him out, was into sports. He's now 13 years of age. So what happens next? He's betting with my brother. I'm opposed to it. I even told him, I said, Scoop, please, don't bet with Jason. He doesn't comprehend or understand. He doesn't have the money management skills that it takes. Please. Oh, it's just in fun. Yeah, it was just in fun, all right. Because when my son won, my brother paid him. But when my son lost, he didn't have to pay him. Well, that was a win-win situation for the boy, but it turned out to be a lose-lose situation for me. Myself, I gambled, played cards all the way through high school. In fact, one time, like I said, I got so good at cards, I thought I could beat anybody. I remember and I started card games across the street here in East Wash. I had 6-7 guys over all the time playing cards. And at one time, this one guy kept giving him money, kept borrowing it, because he kept losing. And then eventually what happens, you might win for a while, but that's going to turn right around and you're going to lose. Well, I started losing. And I wanted my money. He kept winning and winning and winning. And I'm going, I'm losing my money. I want my money back. That he goes, oh, I'll pay you later. I'll pay you. I said, no. I want it now. He wouldn't give it to me. Played a couple more hands and he won them both. I asked him again, wouldn't give it to me. Just in an instant, I jumped up on the table and I grabbed him. Now I'm a short little guy and I don't weigh a hell of a lot. And I was smaller and less weight then than I am now. That's how I reacted. I jumped up and grabbed him. Just in an instant. That's how quick things can happen. I went in the military, continued on gambling, ran the slush fund because I was so good at it. They give me their whole paycheck and have to borrow to get by for the next week. For every $5 I owed out, I got 7 back. Got out of the service, taught my wife how to play cards. We went around circuits and what have you, playing euchre, dirty clubs, occasionally poker. Then she told me something one day. She said, Robert, I'm pregnant. I stopped gambling. I did teach my son, yes, but I stopped playing the cards and what have you, because to me, my son was more important, and the money was more important. To a gambler and addicted gambler, they don't care. They don't care about their bills that have to be paid. They don't care about the mouths that need to be fed, or the roof that they got to have over their head. And they don't care about family. Because that family is the most important thing you kids got. But, oh, we all got. So anyway, I stopped gambling, but my son continued. He got out of high school. Well, guess what? He did the next thing. He took gambling to the next level. He got on the internet and started gambling. But I understand from some of the kids now that I grew up with that he started gambling. Think about it. In grade school and high school. Just like his old man. Just like his dad. When I look around you and I see you all sitting here, data-wise, 1/4 of you in this room, 1/4 will probably grow up to be an addicted gambler. They did a survey in the state of Oregon, 30,000 kids. 23% from the ages of 10 years of age through 18 were addicted to gambling. 21 alcohol, 18 drugs. So my son, now, he's on the internet, and he's betting with the bookies for real. He's betting with my brother. At this time, the splits in the family haven't happened. Only this time my brother told him, you lose, you gotta pay me. So my brother's son continued on gambling. But a strange thing happened. All of a sudden, my brother the bookie cut him off from gambling. Why? Because my son wasn't paying. God, I wondered where he learned that from. So now my son's lost the bookie that he knew. Now he has to find another bookie. And of course there were a few of them in the city, and there still is. He found them. But guess what? He burned every single bookie in the city to the point that he was not even allowed to make a bet. I strongly suspect, and the reason for that, of course, was he didn't pay the other bookies off. He learned that from my brother. Why pay? So he found the avenue on, found another bookie, only this time it was offshore betting in the Bahamas, which you saw those other two in the video. He took it to the next level. He had to get that fixed. Gambling is like a cocaine high. You get that rush, you get that adrenaline going. You can feel it in your bones, in your body. This is what happens. This is part of the addiction. So he took it to the next level, and he continued on gambling. By this time, my brother's cut everybody off. Jason's going to whole chunk. His friends are calling me, telling me, your son, Jason's betting heavily. No, he ain't betting heavily. I don't believe it. I still didn't know gambling was an addiction at that point. So his friends kept calling me, and he doesn't have the money. How can he be betting heavily when he's not even working? They kept calling me. Finally, I guess it finally sunk in because my head was too thick. So I got scared. I knew he had flirted around with drugs earlier in his years, and I thought, oh my God, is he selling drugs to feed a habit? To be honest with you, I wish at this point he would have been, and I'll tell you why. I got so scared that this was what he was doing, that it would lead to his death, possibly, that my friend, who the Madison Metropolitan School District knows quite well, Louis Udesi, from high school, him and I were in the same class. I went up, he was ahead at that time of the Dane County Narcotics Squad. I went, met him for lunch one day, and I told him my fears. He said, Robert, we'll follow your son. That's why I wish he had been dealing with drugs. Because if he had been caught, and I could have gotten him into treatment and possibly got him the help that he needed. He followed us 6 months. Where in the heck was he getting the money? Well, I'm working for the Department of Revenue, and I get a phone call. It's from my aunt, my son's great aunt. Well, you got a problem with your son. I says, what's that? I gave him some money. Well, I don't care. Gave him some money, what? Gave him 50 or 100 to help him out. I don't care. That's fine. Well, after about, I don't know how many times I asked her. And then she said, well, I gave him $10,000. I almost dropped my drawers. $10,000 in one sitting. I knew darn well where he was at. Called a friend of mine. We went up the whole truck. Got a hold of security. At first, they weren't even going to help me. And I said, well, wait a minute. I need your help. He's got a gun and he's also thinking of committing suicide. Because that's what my aunt told me. That he's got a gun. And I'm scratching the back of my head saying, he ain't got a gun. He's using that as an excuse. Because my son would never go hunting with Dad. Because he said, I can't kill an animal. Went up the whole truck. When I told them about the gun, boom. They had me upstairs faster, you can blink an eye. And boy, do they have security cameras around. We walked around the whole casino. No, can't find him. They had even told me they had comped him, given him a room. Why did they give him a room? He was a high-stakes gambler. Not bad for somebody that doesn't have a job. And he was betting in the thousands. In fact, we walked around there for about an hour, got ready to go because he wasn't there. I told my friend, I said, it's been a long day. I'd like to have a talk one before we go. So we did. We stopped in the casino. We had one. Got ready to leave and started walking out, and there he was, sitting at the blackjack table with some deadbeat friends. Went upstairs, security took me up. They went downstairs, got his ID on the pretense they told him that it was fake. A few minutes later, they brought him upstairs into the room. And you should have saw the look on his face when they opened the door and he saw Dad. It was like, oh my God, what are you doing here? I told him, I said, Jason, I want that $10,000 that you just took from Elaine earlier today. He looked at me and he said, it's none of your business. Cop says, Jason, yeah? Can we check your automobile out? Sure. I got no problem with that. Can we check your room out? No. And with that, he got up off the chair and he looked at the cop and he pointed right to the cop and he said, listen, you don't even have a right to ask me a question. I'm walking out of here and I'm going downstairs and back to the blackjack table, and away he went. He didn't care. He went downstairs to play back blackjack. 6 weeks before the murders took place, he met Meng Wu 6 weeks before he killed him. So Jason went downstairs. We left. Next day I went to Corona, talked with the cops, told him I was concerned that he might have a gun and not sure what he's going to do with it. Still not believing he had a gun. So anyway, cop waited down the corner. I got to the house, cop watched. I started walking up the driveway. My son was backing out, saw me, and he went boom! He just put the metal to the floor. I had to jump out of my way. Had I not jumped, I wouldn't be speaking to you today. I'd have been flat as a pancake. He would have killed me. He did not care about family. That's what happens to gamblers. Again, I'll repeat that. He continued on gambling. I tried pulling him into counseling, and my aunt. We had 3 sessions. The boy wouldn't, but my aunt did. And my aunt told the therapist, the counselor, I will not give him any money. And I breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't even know she had that kind of money. No. But my son continued on gambling. He met Major Wu. He's into offshore betting in the Bahamas because he can't find any bookies in the city of Madison that will take a bet. So he's got to do it offshore. And he started teaching Major Wu how to gamble. How much time do we have? 12 minutes. Okay, I'm going to pick up the speed here a little bit in case there's any questions. All right, so now he's into gambling, he's teaching Major Wu, and he has a $50,000 Cadillac Escalade with $18,000 worth of stereo TV equipment in it. Now, how in the heck can he have a car vehicle like that? At that point, not knowing anything about guns, and he's concerned that somebody's going to steal that Escalade, him and Meng Wu go to Sun Prairie to a gun dealer and buy a 9mm Glock gun, which was the gun that killed him. So to answer your question, no, when he was up at Ho Chunk and got the 10,000, he didn't have a gun. But anyway, he's teaching Major Wu. How many of you, well, let me ask it this way. Yeah, how many of you have $75,000 in your account today? Yeah, exactly. $75,000 in his account. Now, what were the parents thinking of giving him $75,000? The investigation revealed the net worth of the family from Taiwan was $300 million. They had purchased a one-way ticket, had flown into Madison to take him back to Taiwan in their own words, mother's own words, to make him a good boy because he had a problem with gambling. They were supposed to, my son was supposed to place a bet. They would have won $17,000. The bet was not placed for myself, for my son, or Major Wu. Major Wu went to the house while they, kids, the 3 of them, were up at Ho Chunk. He waited inside the house. Then what happened next? They got back from Ho Chunk. Jason took off, dropped the other 2 kids off who were at the wrong place at the wrong time. When they went to sleep, him in the back, kid fell backwards and then nailed him. And then waited another 2 hours before my son got home and murdered him. All premeditated, not done at one time. Investigation was phenomenal. The police did a heck of a job. I learned during this that my aunt had continued on giving him some money. How much money do you think my aunt gave him? How much? 50,000? Somebody else. 100,000? Somebody else. $250,000 later, I'm looking at my son in the casket. As far as I was concerned, she helped pull the trigger not only on his addiction, but she helped to kill him. That anger was in me. And a little bit probably still is. During the investigation, I was forced to give him my brother's name because they told me if I didn't, I would be arrested for withholding state's evidence in a major murder case. I gave him my brother's name because he was a booker. At this time, he's got an office here in Madison where he booked out of, and he also was booking in Blanchardville where he lived. The cops went down to talk to him. My dad was there. My dad, who I called after finding out that my son had been shot and killed, which I didn't go into, but I found out through Dane County. We called him. Came over. I called my dad. He said, I know you don't have the money, son, but I'm going to help you with the funeral. I said, thanks, Dad. On Saturday, they arrested my brother for illegal booking in another county. That afternoon, I got a call from my dad. I ain't going to help you. The hell with it. Sorry about that. Anyway, so my dad, my own flesh and blood, didn't even bother to come to the funeral. How do you think I felt? My aunt, I'm not even talking to her because of the $250,000 and my feelings. I had nobody to hold, to hug, and to help me through that period, except one person up there. That's who helped me through it. This chain that I wear around the neck, I wear it in honor of my son because it's his. And about 5 years? 7, okay. So there you have it. The murders. But there was one other thing, you know, it's amazing. Once you do something, the rippling effect continues. After the murders, 1 year, the 17-year-old kid that was murdered, his only surviving brother committed suicide because he couldn't take the loss of his brother. That wiped that family's name out. They no longer have anybody to carry on the name. 2 years ago, this coming September, the other family's only surviving son, who had a problem with losing his brother, they had him in treatment and help, overdosed on drugs. That family's name will be no longer able to be carried on. Meng Zhu Wu hung himself, was the only child. 4 families are no longer able to carry on their name. Think about that. All from just one act. And the rippling effect? How many of you know what a cocaine baby is? How many of you have seen a cocaine baby? I have. And it's nothing you want to see because it's no fun. The 17-year-old who died, his girlfriend, who was my son's ex-girlfriend, was pregnant with his child. Needless to say, baby was born a cocaine addict and eventually was taken away by the system. There's your rippling effect. by you kids being in the school today and let me share my story is allowing me to heal. It's my reach to be able to hug and to hold somebody and to share what's in my heart, in my mind, and in my heart. So if your family, when you get home today, you tell your parents you love them, you give them a call if they're away, and you look at your brother and sister, and you hug them, and you hold them, because you never know what can happen. Are there any questions? You can ask me anything you want. Just a second, I'm not the greatest of hearing, I guess it has to do with age. Not that I'm getting any older. I don't know. Where were you at? Okay. Yes. Yes, I believe you would be. And let me tell you something that I regret. She asked me, as Jason was here today, would she be with me? Would he be with me to talk about problem and compulsive gambling? And I would have to say yes, he would. And he's with me right now in my heart. I did something after the incident in Verona. When he tried running me over, that was the last time I had anything to do with my son. Until I saw him laying in the casket. I was being hard. Tough love is what I call it. But that was the worst thing I could do. Because what you got to do is when there is a problem and there is a crisis, you got to be there. You got to be strong. You got to be there. Because if I had been there, maybe I could have helped him when he reached out. He used to call me. He'd call friends and I'd hang up on him. So yeah, he would be with me. Yes. Any other questions? Somebody have one over here? He just asked me how long ago all this took place. This happened 7 years ago this June. So it'll be 7 years next, well, just a matter of days. 26th of June of 2003. Any other questions? Well, okay. How much time have we got? 2 minutes. Well, again, I really am out of words here to say. I just want to say thank you for allowing me this time. Thanks.
In the third hour, so you guys all have fourth hour. There's still some stuff down here if you would like to take in. Thank you all for coming.